There is one important question that may bother the mind of a true sadhaka in the path of sadhana, that is the spiritual practice. The question is about a true devotee or a true disciple. Why is it so? See, in any practice, devotion to that practice is very, very essential. Without that devotion, that complete focus of the mind and oneness with what I am practicing, which can also be said as ekatatvabhyasa, one single practice totally focused on, is very important. In that, technique is important, no doubt. What is technique? Technique is Tantra. The way to do it, how to do it, how much to do it, the right and the wrong. These are all the technical aspects of your practice. But mind you, dear sadhakas, technique alone cannot take us for a longer distance, because without devotion, without the love to do that practice, any practice becomes a mechanical one. When it is mechanical, means filled more with the techniques and less of devotion or zero devotion, is not of much help to you. So then the question boils down to the fact, who is a true devotee or who is a true disciple? There is a very important analysis that's being made in the text Lalita Sahasranama. If somebody has not heard about it, let me explain it in a brief way. Srividya practice has different dimensions. It's mainly focused on the Kundalini awakening in an individual. But the process through which a disciple or a devotee goes through are many aspects. So Srividya is mainly mantra yoga. Mantra has the major prominence in the practicing details. Apart from that, there are three important popular texts which ultimately leads you to the Srividya enhancement, empowerment, and the ultimate goal of moksha or liberation. One is Lalita Sahasranama, the 1,000 names of the Mother Divine. The second one, which is equally popular, are the 700 mantras or shlokas of the text by name Durga Saptashati. Third one is Adi Shankaracharya's Saundarya Lahari. So in this context, in Lalita Sahasranama, the shloka number 1993, and also the Bhagavad Gita talk about a true devotee. So it says there are fourfold divisions in the way the devotee can worship me. The first one is the persons who are suffering a lot in life. Second one is the seeker for knowledge, Jnana Kankshi, who wants to have the knowledge of the path. And the third one is the self-interested or self-focused devotee or a practitioner. And the fourth and the most important one is the wise persons. These are the four categories of who is a true devotee or a disciple. So the explanation given in these texts are, if a person is suffering for many reasons, it's better that he does the practice of any path for removing his sins, first of all. This is a very interesting aspect of it. In Lalita Sahasranama also, Lalita Parameshwari, Bhagavati herself says, let the devotee practice my path in whatever way he chooses. And the whole idea behind this practice would be to begin with to remove all his sins. You know why? When the sins are so many, and it's a very big baggage in the form of karmas, the amount of practice you do for anything more than that will not help you much. So the first and foremost step for a true devotee is not expecting much out of this practice, but what he or she is going to get as a reward is a very big thing. And what is that? That is removal of the sins. So when a disciple in a truthful way approaches the Guru is able to make out the state in which the devotee or the disciple is in. So if his karmic spear or the baggage that he is carrying from his past lives is very heavy and very big, the practices given are meant to cleanse his sins and the karmas. Until that gets cleared, the rewards or the fruits of the practices as expected by the devotee will not happen. Then the devotee or the disciple should not lose heart or start doubting the very capacity of the Guru or the very capacity, authenticity of the practice itself. He has to continue to do it until the cleansing process is over. So if you take, for example, Lalita Sahasranama or Bhagavad Gita chanting and all that, the first and the foremost motivation has to clear my path away from the karmas. Then comes the second aspect of it. That is, then you start going and looking for knowledge. You become a seeker of knowledge. What is seeking knowledge? Why do you need this knowledge as the second step after clearing your karmas? The second one is seeking knowledge means reading the scriptures, listening to satsangas or YouTubes. These are all the ways through which you gain knowledge to cleanse your mind. It is called Chitta Shuddhi, cleansing of your mind away from doubts and away from lack of focus, concentration, or fickle-mindedness, restlessness. These are all the characteristics of a mind which is not pure, or Chitta Shuddhi has not happened. So the second stage of a devotee is, if he continues to stick on to the practice, what happens is the Chitta Shuddhi, the cleansing of the mind will happen, and then the disciple starts feeling bright within and bright outside. A kind of radiance starts illuminating in his entire personality. That is the second aspect of a true devotee when he continues to practice whatever he has accepted as his path. And the third one is the self-interested category of disciples. Many a times such disciples approach Guru for individual selfish desires to be fulfilled. There is nothing wrong in that, because a path like Srividya, Bhagavati herself says that you seek and you get it from me. If you seek with your self-interest, self-desire, that you want to become a rich person, wealthy person, healthy person, name, fame, everything you get. So this is the area of self-interest. So you can pursue that path. Then comes the fourth one. What category of a devotee he is? The fourth one is called a wise devotee. A wise devotee is one who practices the path in which he is progressing in the interest of the world, in the interest of the other people, for the good of the society, for the good of the individuals. He does the practice and helps many people around him or her, taking along others also who are ignorant in the path of enlightenment. So these are the four categories of devotees or disciples, and in one's own capacity, everyone is right. But a true disciple understands that this is a process that one has to go through, whether the first one or the second one or the third one. Then these three efforts that you put in three phases will become a culminating effect as a wise disciple or full of wisdom. So, what happens in that state is that there is nothing wanting for his personal gains. It is the highest state of understanding and wisdom that he is one with the goal. He gets merged with the goal and he becomes that goal itself. There is no difference between the goal to be achieved and the person who is trying to achieve the goal. He is called a true disciple because he is a disciple who is in discipline as instructed by the Guru. So to become a true disciple or a true devotee, it's a process that one has to go through, and it can happen only when there is devotion, surrender to the ultimate divinity and the Guru who is showing the path.